his view, he thinks that that $2 million that the state has expended, the accused person should be held liable, should be held responsible for it. But the lawyers of the accused person also make a strong argument that, look, that is not the situation before, because we have not even gotten to the SkyTrain project properly.
Right.
To even talk about funds coming in, all of that. So it's just like somebody going into inspect a project and said, this is your TNT, take it and then go. So it has nothing to do with, you have not even gotten to the SkyTrain project. So if you are talking about SkyTrain money and all of that, you cannot include that $2 million to say that it is the SkyTrain project money and all of that. So for now, he has been discharged from the witness box after indicating that of the accused person's lawyer, the second accused person lawyers led by Yao Champon Buafo indicated that that would be all for the witness. There was no re-examination from the prosecution led by Deputy Attorney General Dr. Justice Mensah. So Justice Audrey Kokuviti, having heard that submission from the parties, discharged the witness. So what it means is that he's done with his testimony. Now we are expecting the third prosecution, with, in this case, prosecution will be parading 8 witnesses. So now 2 done, 6 more to go, and the third one is expected on Tuesday, 17th of March. So that is what transpired yesterday. So yesterday I gave you a clue that that particular witness probably will be subjected to the final part of the cross-examination. That was done, and he has been discharged.
Interesting. You were talking about the bogger yesterday as well. The bogger who comes to court in the company of persons who usually in white garments.
Director, let's have that video of
the Ofanko murder case. Talk to me, Wutala.
So that's the support base. But yesterday he was in court alone.
Oh, he didn't have the backing.
Yesterday the support didn't come. Maybe it will come in at some other time. But yesterday he was alone in court, exactly the same suit with the student bag yesterday. That was how he appeared in court. And I took note of that. He liked coming to court with that bag.
The bag?
Bag, yes.
Okay.
So
and he mostly comes suited?
Yeah, he always comes suited. I've never seen him in court without a suit.
Right.
He's always suited.
Nice. Very
nice and gentle in all of that. So yesterday, he mounted the docket. The case was called before Justice Marie Lewis Simmons. The lawyers were present. His lawyers. Yesterday, Bernard Corantin was representing Paul Asibi Abariga. And then the prosecution was also led by Mrs. Sefa Kobache, a chief state attorney. Now, the problem is that it has to do with a jury trial. And for the jury trial to proceed, or for the trial to continue or to proceed in this manner, you need all the jurymen and women present. Yesterday, out of the 7, 1 person was absent. And that person was absent because there was a scene development in that person's career. At the time that the juror was empaneled, he was in public service. The court has been informed that he's now moving to private practice, or the person is now moving to private business. And so his new employee or his new job, it's difficult for him to be present in court yesterday. So it requires that he be moving across, traveling more time. So it makes the court time unfriendly for him. And so he was unable to come yesterday, and that the court was notified. That same juror is involved in another case, and that same excuse also has hindered the progress of that case. And what the judge indicated she has done is to write to the Chief Justice to inform the Chief Justice about the fact that this is the situation at hand. If it will be possible, we can have the juror join via Zoom of a sort. But we're also thinking about if somebody is joining, what kind of people are around him, because the person has taken an oath, and per the oath, you have to do the right thing. Whatever you do should fall within the tenets of the law. Absolutely. So I can absolutely. I cannot sit here, join you, and have Joshua Kodjo Mensah seated by me. Absolutely listening in and all of that. So the court is thinking about all these things. So if the Chief Justice grant that warrant, or he should give a warrant for that to happen, they have to even, if there is a way that they will attach a special security person to her or him, so that wherever he will be a place that is acceptable or recognized in the face of the law for that to happen. But it is something that the judge has put before the office of the Chief Justice, awaiting a response to that.
Right.
So what the juror, the said juror, has indicated to the court that sometime next week he's available. So he's expected in court, and prosecution is expected to call the very last of 8 witnesses. 7 of them have been called, and the last one is expected. And most of them happen to be police officers who played various roles.
Right.
And this particular case, how the incident happened, they went to the crime scene, investigated, and at some point in time, how they managed to convey the victim at the time to the police hospital, and eventually he giving up there. So these are the line of testimony. I told you yesterday that the ballistic aspect was also in court to tell the court about the operations of the gun, things that they found with the gun in question, and how detrimental it is to life at that particular, and the range especially where it was shot and all of that. So that case yesterday, there was no show because one of the jurors was absent, meaning that the jury was not properly constituted and all of that. So that is what happened in relation to this matter.
Interesting. And I'm sure that in the coming days we'll get to appreciate that more. But today's a Friday.
Yes.
What are we to expect from the courts?
Faith day for some people. Yeah. Faith day for some people. And on a Friday, you know those days when the 48-hour rule was not, does not include weekends. The police will wait on a Friday, then they pick you up. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you see no curfew before eventually Monday, and then you are taken to court. But now, holidays, weekends, the court has made, or the system has made it possible for a court to sit and deal with issues when it has to. So even on weekends, if you are arrested, the 48-hour rule will apply, thanks to Martin Pebu. Now, you remember the issue of Western Togoland Restoration Front? Papavi and his squad. Yes, Papavi and his squad. Homeland Steady Group. And a lot of people were arrested at some point in time. Over 70 of them. They were put into groups. So that is Papavi, now of blessed memory. This is one of the moments when he appeared at the law court complex. He's now a blessed memory. He was 80 plus at the time that he was arrested and all of that. What is happening is that they put them into groups, and as we speak, some have been convicted, jailed 5 years. The maximum punishment is actually 5 years. So belonging to a prohibited organization, being a member of a prohibited organization, contributing funds in support of a prohibited organization, and also being a company, attending meetings of a prohibited organization, and all of that. So the Western Togoland Restoration Front, that particular organization, we are told that it is a prohibited organization. They want to succeed that part of Ghana from the Republic of Ghana. It wants that part of the Togoland to be independent. It wants to be a nation on its own. But the manner in which they are doing it is against the laws of the land. And so they were arrested, and here we are. So today, another set of them, some set have already known their fate. Some people were convicted, like I said, jailed. Others too, they were fined. Others too were let go. And all of that. So today, another set, Felix Sosa and others, this morning before Justice Marie Lewis Simmons will know their fate, because it is Judgment Day. So we'll get to know whether they will walk free or they will be convicted. And if they are convicted, are they going to be fined, or they will be sentenced to prison, or both, because this punishment, the court can impose a fine and also a custodial sentence. But if you are lucky and you walk free, recently the last one that I did, there were about 3 of them who were lucky and all of them walked free. So these people who have been standing trial for a very long time, we also hope that today, being the 5th day, the luck will shine on them and they will have their way in all of that. So this is what we should expect around the corridors of the court, especially when it is Friday. Right. You are wearing your beautiful African print and all of that. So like you mentioned earlier, you don't advise people on a Friday. And those in the Star newsroom have told us so many times, in respect of this, their authority on that. Echo Anan and then the squad. You mentioned it, so I'm just repeating.
You are just reiterating, yeah. But when I mentioned nobody heard. Your own is the one that they would hear and they'll give you a holla. But Mutala, thank you so much.
Thank you, Joshua.
You have a wonderful Friday as well. Mutala Inusa Kwenote, he is the our man in court, basically chasing and letting us know of all the important details happening in the courts. We'll take a break and return shortly. Stay with us. On Inside Out every Friday to also be heard on the show. Quite a number of things have happened this week, and I just want to pick your thoughts on what stands out for you in the course of the week. And quite a number of things have happened, even from Parliament. We've heard the minority talk about the fact that, well, it was wrong for Ghana to collaborate with the USA and with regards to the attacks on northern Nigeria in somewhere last year, on the 25th of December, on Christmas Day. We saw the attack in northern Nigeria. We were told recently by the finance minister, by the foreign affairs minister rather, that indeed the nations reached out to us and we were part of it. The minority says, no, this is wrong. It puts us in the way of terrorist attacks, among others. There's been the whole conversation also about the recruitments and quite a lot happening as well. So let's pick your thoughts on these issues. Let me know what exactly stood out for you in the course of the week. The numbers are on the screens now, so you can call and let us know exactly what is on your mind. But Jamal was also sworn in, and so yes, he's now officially in Parliament as well. There's a call on the line. Hello there, good morning.
Hello, good morning, my big brother Joshua. How are you?
Yes, sir. I'm doing very well. Hope you're doing well too.
I'm doing fantastic.
Great. Nice to hear from you this morning. Your name and where you're calling from?
This is your brother, original King Kaka.
Yes, King Kaka, what's up?
Kaka. Yeah. First of all, let me wish belated birthday to your sister. GHOne here.
Yes.
And I know, but tell her she will be back on the screen.
She will be. Coming next week.
What I want to touch on this morning is about the President of Ghana lifting the flag of Ghana higher wherever in every place he gets. This morning I did my small research, and what I noticed is that 6 honorary degree have been credited on his name. But you know one thing, this is the man who have said that although he been called doctor, I don't want to be called that doctor. Just tonight, midnight, Yonsei University, South Korea, they have honorary PhD, public administration. So John Dramani Mahama is an asset. Asami, that's me, my opinion. Aside Dr. Kwame Nkrumah is the person God have gifted us, and we need to cherish him and pray and support him in his research agenda. I want to touch about the security recruitment.
Right.
Joshua, we cannot doing the same thing which we used to do. How can a youth of a nation want to serve a security in the nation? You need to pay for a form before. In fact, I think the parliamentarians, the interior, and those who are in charge need to do things right. They need to turn it. That buying of forms and collecting money need to stop. And they should employ the Ghanaians. And the disqualifying, is becoming hollow balo. But obviously, not all of us can be employed in the national security, but we should be fair to all of us. This morning, I don't want to take much of your time. Thank
Absolutely. King Kaka, thank you so much for calling. And you can also call and let us hear from you. Let us know what stood out for you in the course of the week. The numbers are on your screen, so you can just give us a call. And of course, if you agree with King Kaka, there's been a lot of people who say, well, we do not see the need why people need to pick registration forms to serve the motherland. And so if you do not have to pick forms to be a civil servant, they don't see why you need to pick forms to be recruited into the security services. And also looking at the number of people who applied, over 500,000 and a little over 5,000. In fact, the slots were just 5,000. So that's what 1% of the total recruitment. 99% have to wait. Others have been told that the over 100,000 that qualified have been told that, well, their details will be kept. The data will be kept for the next recruitment cycle. But for the rest who did not pass the aptitude test, they would have to try their luck next time. And that is also igniting some unease, especially among the youth, with some level of NDC youth also very disappointed because most of them were hoping to be drafted into the security services. That did not happen. And yesterday you saw the MPs. They talked about the fact that, well, their phones have been buzzing ever since. Messages, calls, constituents are asking, MP, you need to intervene. MP, there is something you can do about this matter because constituents need to get into the security services. Others need to, get jobs, basically. And Sedin Ketia is quoted as saying that, well, if 500,000 people all get into the police service, who would they be arrested? Quite an interesting dynamic to the conversation there. And then there's also the other conversation of whether or not the refund should be made. Those who did not qualify, those who were not selected, just refund the amounts that they paid for the forms, the recruitment forms to them. We'll see how all of that pans out. But it's your time to also call and let us hear from you. What is on your mind this beautiful Friday morning? Mind you, shortly, my seniors would also be joining me. We'll have a conversation on all of these regional issues. Iran, The war in Iran, as it stands now, the Strait of Hormuz, Iran says they are protecting that territory. No oil will be coming, no vessel will be going through that strait. We'll get to understand exactly the implications, as we have been warned that in the next pricing window, we should see fuel prices going up. Well, government says we are also going to cushion the Ghanaian. We are going to make sure that you are living in a reset economy. No stress, no wahala for now. Don't be too anxious. Like the Bible says, be anxious for nothing, but in everything, through prayer and supplication, make your request known. The administration says, be anxious for nothing. Don't worry. We understand the turbulence in the Middle East, but you should not be too worried because we've got you covered. Quite interesting there. So you can also call. Let us hear from you. What's on your mind this morning? And we'll get to appreciate your thoughts as well. The lines are on your screens, and you can put in a call now. As you can see currently on your screens, this one of the things, the missiles dropping in some, I think this is Qatar, where quite a lot of people were just walking. All of a sudden, they saw the missile coming down, and they had no option than to bolt. And so, well, quite interesting dynamics there. My seniors are ready, and I'm sure that it's a Friday that most of you are also getting ready for a lot of things. So we'll drop Inside Out now. We'll end Inside Out now so that we can allow for my seniors to join me and have the conversation. But that's it for Inside Out. Well, it's time to get into the conversations, and of course, my seniors have joined me this morning. The usual suspect, Ibrahim Al-Hassan, the head of current affairs here at the EIB network, is also lead producer for this show and almost every other show you see on TV. Ibrahim is here. Elvis Darko, managing editor of the News Center, and the News Center newspaper is lying there. Charlie, Elvis, let me see the headlines for this morning quickly. Yes, so the News Center this morning, EMP set to operate Damang Mine. Acquisition talks dates back to 2023. There's also MTN 2026 SME Accelerate program to strengthen SME competitiveness. NPP online registration targets 1 million members. Yes, we heard from JFK yesterday. A Blackwest disclosure exposes Ghana to terror threats. We had that conversation here as well. Girls dominate 2025 WASI Distinction Awards. I'm not surprised at all. They will dominate. What the boys are doing these days, try to impress the girls.
The boys, to be frank, we have to do something about the rate at which boys are veering off academics these days.
Yeah.
It's like the girls are rather now focusing on education.
Yes.
You go to schools, secondary schools, the lives boys are living these days. Charlie, something is happening.
It's alarming.
If we are not careful, the time of girls.
Once the boys are focusing on the girls and the girls are focusing on education,
And that's the point.
We are happy for the girls.
And the point is that what is happening is dangerous for the future.
Oh no, that one.
Because if you look at issue of drugs, the percentage of boys and girls, look at it.
Oh, yeah.
It is largely young boys who are into this drug addiction and when they arrest people for armed robbery, look at the percentage of male to female.
Yeah.
So you realize that it's like the male gender is drifting towards a certain direction that we need to pay attention.
No, they don't believe that education is the key to success.
No.
You know,
We have done
when
gender.
you have influencers, denigrating education.
Exactly.
We have done
what do you
affirmative
expect
action
these
for
young boys
girls.
to do?
I think the results is what we are seeing.
We need one for
And
boys.
it's like we have left the boys behind. No, serious. This is a serious thing, but we are not paying attention. It's a serious issue.
Yeah.
Because, as I said, I mentioned armed robbery or crime. Look at the ratio, boys and girls.
But men
Drug
have always
addiction.
been daring. Men
Yeah,
have
drug
always been
addiction.
daring. Yeah.
Look at the percentages. Something is happening, and it's time we begin to pay. We don't have to wait till it's out
It gets
of
alarming and then-
because it's not good for all. We all know what is happening. That's the sad aspect.
Yeah.
So we need to say something about it.
Right, so that's Elvis Darko, managing editor at the News Center newspaper. And then the Stephen Nesiedu is also joining us. He is president of the Young Professionals Network. YPN. Stephen, welcome. Good morning.
Thank you.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Nice to have you again.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And, I will start with Stephen because, Young Professionals Network. Young people have been so disappointed this week. And the word that young people don't want to see any longer is disqualified. Because over 400,000 of them have seen the word disqualified this week. And they are so not happy with it. I'm talking about the recruitment exercise. Most of them had the whole idea that, especially NDC youth, we were promised, we are coming to start recruitment, and so please put in the applications and then you get jobs. Now, only 5,000 were picked out of over 500,000 who applied. And most of them were disqualified with the aptitude test. Very, very different. And they are so disgruntled now, and they don't want to see the word disqualified again, ever in their lives. For you who leads the Young Professionals Network, seeing that young people have been subjected to this, how did it come out to you?
Yesterday, listening to the Minister of Interior trying to justify why we are where we are, I felt that maybe he's talking too much. And that these recruitments are being done by agencies under the ministry. And these agencies have experience over the years, and they have a way of doing it without generating this, drama around it. But perhaps because of the concentration of the whole exercise at his ministry, is also creating some concerns among other stakeholders. But the bigger problem is unemployment. And what we are seeing happening is because over 69 years of our independence, we have demonstrated our inability to create employment for future generations. As a student at University of Ghana, who was more or less into student activism, We criticize our university authorities who were beneficiaries of a system that was laid down by maybe our forefathers, where in the university was one in a room, you had, free food, you had potters polishing your shoes, carry your bags when you check in, and you could actually, because we were a little older, you could actually let your girlfriend come and visit, And at a point, students demonstrated against the university because they were giving too much chicken and they wanted fish. That is a system that you benefited from. And most of them went to University of Ghana and they have become administrators of the university. Yet you could not give that same, quality of life to your younger generation. That tells you a failure in how we have envisioned the future of our young people. And it cuts across every aspect of our lives. We don't plan for tomorrow. We are instant people. So people come into power today is what we'll get today. Because to solve the problem of unemployment, we need to have a plan and begin to plan that, okay, on a yearly basis, how many graduates are coming out of school? And how do we put in systems to ensure that we are creating, the needed jobs to absorb them? We have failed as a country to do that. So what we see today is a result of several years of failure, policy failures across various regimes. It's not just one party, but all the parties. And I remember when MPP was in power in 2017, their major issue was unemployment. NDC is in power today, the major issue is unemployment. So it means that somebody is not doing the hard thinking, to find out how we can solve these problems. How do we solve it, my brother? I'm a businessman. I'm a young man who started business probably some 8 years ago. One of my companies employs about 240 people. But how is the state interested in helping me grow? There's nothing like that. New government came, some of the contracts were abrogated because they believe that too. Once you get a contract at a certain time, you belong to a certain. Some of them contracts that were abrogated were not even given a reason. We're just told that the contract has been terminated because there's a clause that allows termination. So people will lose their jobs because of that. So you realize that one regime comes and then there's a new crop of business people coming up. Yeah. The regime goes another. So how do we create sustainable jobs? For me, the problem of unemployment can be solved if we deliberately encourage, entrepreneurs. We need a huge, class of young people who are going into, entrepreneurship. And there should be a deliberate program to support them. The handouts alone is not enough. And at times, what we give is also not adequate. You come go for some of these government-funded projects and they tell you that we'll give you 500,000. You go through the process and they give you 20,000. How do you expect me to turn around the company with 20,000? We said, okay, SME, government is going to provide an SME, banking support for a lot of young entrepreneurs or business people. How is that coming about? So there should be some coherent thinking around how we will support people to set up businesses. Then the private sector can absorb all these graduates coming out of school. Then government will now also absorb some. But now it looks like everybody, the whole youth population coming out of school, only sees immigration, police recruitment, see military, and it's not because they want to go there. It's the only option available, And that for me is where all these problems are coming from. Now, to the bit about government asking these young people who are already unemployed, very frustrated in life, because really, if you finish school and your parents will still have to give you money to feed and provide shelter for you, it becomes uncomfortable. And at times, your parents begin to look at you in a very, uncomfortable way. Then you now go to them and say, oh, I have this immigration application I want to do. I need you to give me money to go. Then they give you money. Some of them have to even go and borrow laptops, buy laptops to write these aptitude tests, only to be told that you are disqualified. What was the thinking around this whole process? Knowing very well that you only need 5,000 people. Why do you open this up and have close to 500,000 people paying for it? Subjecting them to a very difficult process. Some of them had to travel out of Accra to write these exams. And then at the end of the day, you would come and give them a disqualified notice. You talk to some of these people who sat for these exams, and they'll tell you that, Everything we wrote, there's nothing that has to do with what we're going to even do, And I'm asking myself, what was the questions like? What were they even examined on? Did we just pick anything from anywhere? Is it to test the aptitude? They are going to be security people. How is the aptitude test related to what they are going to do? Did you even provide a handout for them to even prepare? How was it done? So there's some thinking that needs to be done in that process to ensure that tomorrow we don't subject our unemployed youth to these same humiliating situations.
Ibrahim.
Well, it's heartbreaking, and to say that will be an understatement. I related to that yesterday. For over 500,000 young men and women to think that their only opportunity out of despair, their only opportunity to be able to put food on the table is to don a uniform, others firemen and women, immigration officers, policemen and women, or prison officers. It's an alarm that has been sounded since God knows how many years ago, where it's not the individuals who have love for teaching who are going to the training colleges. It's no longer the individuals who have empathy, who have love and can withstand the sight of blood, who are going to the nursing schools.
Yeah.
I, for one, did science from the beginning, but at the point I abandoned it because it didn't align with what I could stomach. And that's how it ought to be. But guess what? If the only opportunity I could have gotten to be employed was to go to a health school, would I not go? I will, because it's the only opportunity. Yeah. When I come back from the school, what will be the attitude I will be exhibiting at work? Nonchalant. Because that love is not there. I'm just earning something to keep body and soul together. Unfortunately, that's where we are. Where many people see these opportunities as a means to an end, and not service. See, in the US, there is an incentive package for you to be conscripted or recruited. Those jobs sometimes are even done by we here. People get opportunity to go to US and serve in the military, and then that's it. Because they know that they might deploy you today or tomorrow to go to war. And how many of them have been killed? I'm sure we'll get to that conversation, right? But here, it has become a means of survival. So once the portal opens, in fact, everybody in the family is asking you, don't you have 2 legs? I do. Don't you have 2 arms? I do. Go and apply. No country can be built that way. You have love, passion, you want to serve in the military, you want to serve in a uniform service. Yes, then you apply. Now, the system that was rolled out, that has gotten us where we are today, is the same system that has been rolled out from day one. In fact, this is not the first time we're having this conversation about why are you opening portals for these number of people when you know that this is the number that you need.
Yeah.
This is not the first time I personally have had to have a conversation about refund to those applicants who failed. This is not the first time we are told that keep the list. Tomorrow, when we are to recruit, we will visit the list and then just pick from it. We've had these conversations before. But unfortunately, we are repeating the same things and we are expecting, unfortunately, different outcomes. No, you can't. Yeah. You can't repeat the same process and expect a different outcome. Actions and reactions are equal in phases, but just opposite, right? Now, where we are today is, I have somebody's, what's the name, feedback on my phone. He sent it to me. So, for body inspection, he passed. For this, I think there were 4 criteria. So, all the others he passed. When he came to the aptitude test, he failed.
That's where most of them were failed.
Exactly.
The aptitude test.
And during the aptitude test, the system actually jammed. So this gentleman could not answer all the questions. Okay, so there was remedy from the ministry where they were given another opportunity to sit for the aptitude test. And like you related to, some of the questions were not related. I've sat for aptitude test before. And trust me, aptitude test questions are not related to whatever you are going to do. It's just a means of sieving. So, like I told you, you are asked to give Latin name for zenith. Zenith. So when they say zenith, what is the Latin word for zenith? Yeah. And this was administered at the University of Ghana, right? So those things are there just to ensure that only a few are able to make it. So if you want the only few to make it, then why do you allow over 500,000, in fact, 505,000 people? Well, you need just 5,000. The argument is there that, okay, so if you restrict it, somebody will argue that, okay, so I'm qualified. Why don't you allow me to test my qualification, my strength, and what have you? Well, it comes at a fee. And because of this same backlash that we are dealing with now, to avoid it, is how come you curtail it? And there was a very fine opportunity to do that. When the portals were opened, the WASSCE results had not been released. So those who had sat for WASSCE and were waiting for their results could not have applied. So before the results were released, close the portal. At least you can give them an opportunity in subsequent exercises. Yeah. No, they allowed those people to receive their results, went and applied, and I can tell you, overwhelming majority of them are now crying.
Yeah, because we're told that over 320,000 people applied with WASSCE.
Exactly.
Results.
Yes. And this is a process that equally admits BEC certificates. So I'll end where Asiedu started from, or ended on. That's the unemployment situation. I completed school, University of Ghana, in 2011. Yeah. And as I always relate to, I can tell you some of my mates at home, they are not working. 2011, let that sink in. Wow. So
50 years.
Yeah. You see? And it just here. The last time I had an engagement with one of them, he had applied for an opportunity to go to the Gulf regions. And you see what Trump is doing there, right? So, and even legitimately, YEA has a model that gets people to go to the Gulf region to go and work. Now that one to Yamutu, right? What are you going to do there? In fact,
that was the same model that the people were calling baby police.
Exactly.
Those people also applied.
Thank you.
To be recruited.
And here's the thing. There's a model today for baby police and baby firemen and baby prison officers and baby immigration officers, right? They have been assured that once their engagement terminates, automatically they will have a slot in the service. That's another restriction to the over 505,000 who applied. Yes, because if they are going through the YEA model and they've been assured that once their engagement terminates, it should result automatically in they being added to the mainstream service. Yeah. That's to tell you something. The unemployment situation is heartbreaking. Government cannot, through the public sector, do anything about it.
They cannot.
What government can do is to replace. So people are retiring. Okay, we replace. Okay, the MPP people that hesitated, they knew once you get you go through a political lens, you know that you exit through another political lens, right? So they have left. And so this government, this party will then decide to fill those slots with its own people and create a few extra ones, right? But don't forget, Dr. Kester Atuforsen is seated behind the screens and is looking at the payroll,
the numbers,
and will not allow you to overly inflate those numbers because there is an economic implication for that decision. So government is restrained in many ways than you can imagine. The next will be the private sector, which has always, in fact, go to the economics department of the University of Ghana, Econs 101. It will tell you all our problems as a country and the solutions. The fact that we are import dependent, the fact that if we want to grow, we should reverse the status quo and become much more an export-driven economy than import-driven economy. How do we become an export-driven economy? Production, manufacturing, industrial revolution. Okay, that will throw up the jobs, right? And of course, if 24-hour economy is implemented and we have many, many industries today that the Middle East is in turmoil, which is going to affect the supply chain. If we have something to supply from here, do we have a Strait of Hormuz here? We don't. It will go straight, right? So these are opportunities that we ought to create for our people and get them dignifying jobs. Not the matramakwe temporary jobs that we create in the name of NAPCO, in the name of this. Today, Go and speak to any NAPCO beneficiary, and they will tell you that their lives, many of them, some of them were retained, some of them are still with GRA, good for them. But many of them have had to return, if not worse off, to the same positions that they were in. Joblessness.
Before the intervention.
Before the intervention, joblessness. As a country, from Rawlings, through Kufuor, to Atamils, to Mahama 1, to Akufo-Addo, to Mahama 2, JIDA, ZIRA, NEIP, were to create our own Dangotes. Point to me one establishment, one firm that has been created through these government interventions of supporting entrepreneurs. Just mention one. Company that has been able to go and establish another outlet in, say, Togo, like I mentioned to you yesterday. Just one.
Even our banks.
That's the point. So Zoom Round's creation is different.
It's not as a result of
at least it started with that government project, right?
Right.
I get that. But he will tell you that he, as an individual, right, took an initiative.
Yes, I
and then
understand.
fortunately got the support.
That's what I'm saying.
But you see, we should have many more of Zoom Lions.
No, you said one. That's right.
No, I get that. See, okay, so the question I asked was about a scheme. So we had ZIRA, we had JIDA, which is now NAIP, we had YEA and what have you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. From those systems, because Zoom Lion didn't go to any of those systems. That's the point I'm making, that tell us just one, an entrepreneur who has become a millionaire, made through that intervention that we can say that this is made in Ghana billionaire.
They're not deliberate.
Deliberate, consciously. That's the point.
Yeah.
So we are unable to. What we do is find a few pitons to individuals who think they have business ideas. So we leave them to their feet. Yeah. No periods of incubation. GRA, and when we come to you, I know you relate to that. GRA will come after you even before you've landed to brief. Taxes. And there's no briefing space for you. So they die before they even start germinating. That's our problem. Say we have kneecapping. Businesses are aligned to political parties. So they flourish when one party is in power. And then they wither when that party leaves power.
They resurface.
No country is built around that.
Right.
Finally, Nigeria is proud of Dangote today.
Yeah.
If they tell the number of jobs Dangote is creating in Nigeria, you open your mouth. But even with that, how many of them are not coming to Ghana? With Dangote, that you enter a household, 90% of the product you find in the house, including the cement that was used in building that house, is from Dangote. Yeah. The sugar from Dangote. This from Dangote. That from Dangote. Now oil from Dangote. Creating jobs. Even they've not been able to find solution to their unemployment situation. And then we cannot have Dangote to boast of. I think there's a need for rethink. If there's any sector that research to affect and impact positively, it should be job creation.
Right.
And we don't have time. We are running out of time.
We're running out of time. Okay, so Elvis.
Thank you. I think today we just have to discuss this topic. We won't because
There's a lot to say.
there are various layers to discussion.
Right.
The disappointment is because of the promise of the NDC. Let's not run away from it. If your campaign message that when Mahama wins, everybody will be employed. People will be angry, will be hungry for employment. And if 1 year into the government, those who have high expectation of employment are unemployed, then when you say you are employing to security, everybody will be running there. Because everybody realizes that there's no job opportunity anyway. So this is the only one. You understand it? So for me, it's about how we politicize things that have nothing to do with politics. Your unemployment has nothing to do with NDC or NPP. It's about pure issue of opportunities in the system where private sector businesses are growing, then they create opportunities to employ people.
Yeah.
But when we look at that, we can capitalize it on votes. So let's bring some policy we've not even thought through. It's a 24-hour economy. And then the president goes to stand somewhere and show a clock. This is the clock for 24-hour economy. Some people will work from here and here. It gives the people so much hope. I know politicians will tell you that their business is to sell hope. So, but I think that they should minimize the way they sell the hope. They are overselling the hope.
Right.
Because the way they sell the hope is what makes all of us believe that if we change government and this new one comes, all our problems will be solved, which is a mirage. It can happen. Let the politicians manage the expectation of the people. Then the people's expectation of government will also be minimized. But then when you create this huge expectation, why wouldn't over 500,000 people apply for security? When MPP, which I disagree with what they did, that when they did it for the first, they saw that there are so many people who qualified, and therefore they don't see the need to be opening the opportunity. So those who qualified, they put all of them, they will recruit them batch by batch. The NDC said it's the worst thing to happen. And therefore, equal opportunity. So if 500,000 people have done this, once you take the 5,000, let all of them go. And the next year, you do reapplication. They took on the MPP back and forth, back and forth. So you are faced with it now. Why should I sympathize with you?
Yeah.
I don't have reason to sympathize with you because you politicize something that you should have seen reason with. Even though I also believe that give people the opportunity. But if you hadn't have politics with it, then people will not be doing politics with it today. Let's be realistic to Ghanaians. And the Ghanaians will understand, no, if this government come or whichever government come, this area will not have a solution anytime soon. It should be a gradual process. Okay? Sale of forms. MPP said that, NDC was actually robbing their applicants. When they came to power, they were never able to make it free. They also sold it. Then the NDC was okay, what you said, you didn't do it. We also attacked you. They also attacked the MPP for selling it. Even to the investing forms and all that. Now you are in power. You are also selling it. So MPP said it is bad to sell it. When they came to power, they sold. And this said it is bad to sell it. When they came to power, they are selling. So if you are a Ghanaian sitting back there, you should really understand that these politicians, they know very well that a lot of the promises they give us are not something they can easily do. But because they know that it can easily influence you to vote for them, they will just run at it. And this is why we are here. Look, our unemployment problem, it is not an issue of government employing. But if you tell me that, President, the candidate put a clock and said, when I win, this is the clock. 8 hours each. Every job, 3 people will do it. And now you won or you are on the seat. Now there's anger among your own party. Now all the propaganda is against the interior minister. That is the reason why the NDC people are not getting employed. And I love analogy, explanation he gave. He said, in the last election, NDC had over 110,000 polling agents. So if the argument is that they should just give it to only NDC polling station agents, they have 110,000, they have 5,000 opportunities. So even in that, means the 105,000 will still have to be disqualified. So those who are inciting people against the interior minister, I don't understand it. The NDC said what the MPP was doing, saying that all those who qualify, they are keeping them, they are only employing party people. So they will be fair to all Ghanaians. The minister says this is what we promised during our campaign. So I am being fair to all Ghanaians. Now you say no, the minister should go and do what you are accusing MPP of. And that the minister should not say that it's father for all. It should now go and restrict the system and give it to only NDC people. But this was the same accusation you leveled against the MPP. You use this for campaign and gave the young people hope that, okay, they think the MPP is actually not in their interest. And that when the NDC comes, they will be open for everybody. Now you the people who supported that campaign message as NDC, now you are telling the minister in charge that go back to what you accused MPP of doing. And that because it's not going back to do what people is doing, now the minister is bad. And now they are inciting the grassroots against Muntaka. What has Muntaka done? He's only implemented a campaign promise by the NDC. Now when the NDC comes to power, it will be equal opportunity for all. They will not say because you are NDC, that's why they... This is what NDC promised. This is what they use against Akufo-Addo government. So you see, our politicians, they should learn lessons. And those of us who vote must learn lessons. And realize that if you take a lot of issues today, you realize that the very thing that one party attacked the other for, when they come to power, they come and do the same thing. Our unemployment situation is dire. And this is not something we should be doing politics with. This is something that we should sit back as a nation and say, look, why are we not able to create employment for people? Let experts, industry people with the ability to craft proper policy, not the one in NDC or MPP manifesto, but people sit down and have a thinking through. I'm not anybody, but I can tell you that Ghana's unemployment solution is simple. We can solve it within 5 to 10 years. Our comparative advantage is agriculture. Today we are feeding school children. There are selected schools at the basic level that do school feeding. And we have a lot of all SHS are doing school feeding, right? Let's say the SHS, for the 3 batches put together, it's 1.2 million students at a go. And let's say maybe 300,000 of the basic school students also get. Make it 1.5 million, right? We are importing rice and using to feed them. Do you think that if we had put that money into local rice production, job will not be created? We are feeding them with canned fish. If we had said fish and egg will give you the same protein. So we are investing this money into poultry production, employing 10,000 young people on 100,000 acres of land where government provide all the facilities. You are giving 1 acre with giving the chicken, giving the feed. It is your startup capital. Manage and turn it around. It's yours. Government has given you the money. Use it. Do you know the kind of employment you can create? If the amount you are using to import rice to feed these kids, leave those of us who go to the market to buy it, but the one you are using, because it's a government money that must empower somebody to make money. So if we choose 5 people and say, you 1, 2, 3, 5, we've come to see your rice farms. It's like you have one of the largest rice farms. There are 5 of you. Government money that will be used to import rice. We are giving it to you, these 5 people, to scale up and produce all the rice for school feeding. So you have your milling machines on the farm, you produce the rice, you mill it, and then it's directly sent to school feeding. Do you know how much money we can make? CPC is collapsing, making losses. Do you know the tea, Milo, that the kids drink every morning in school? We import them from China and other places because CPC does not have the capacity to produce the quantity of Milo, the chocolate that the children have to consume. Do you think that if we start down with a proper strategy, say private sector take 50%, government will take 50%, all the Milo the kids will take in school, you leave us, you the who have our money to the market to go in, but you leave us. But the kids, who government is the one that is paying for their feeding, the amount of money that will be used to buy Milo for tea for them, we are giving it to CPC because we have a viable private sector that is 50%, government is 50%. You produce it and every school in the Ghana will you distribute to every school in Ghana and the money is this is government money. It's not Elvis who is going to market to buy. Do you know how that can make CPC help process our local cocoa beans and create more jobs for people? Do you know the oil that the school children consume? Oil that they are using to cook for them. We import all of them in cargos, in containers. If we identify 5 coconut growers and say, you grow coconuts, we want you to produce coconut oil to feed all school children. 5 of you, this amount of money, scale up. We also want to use red oil to feed school children. 5 palm oil farmers, you, scale up. Government money. Because we are already paying the money to people to go out there. But we are not able to do all this thing because some people whose party is in power need to import because that's their business. They need contract to import and say, when my party came to power, I also got a school feeding contract, I imported and made money. So we are prioritizing few individuals who will make money over the majority that will benefit all of us in the long run.
Right.
So the opportunity to solve Ghana's unemployment problem is a simple thing. But we are not ready. If we make it a policy that in the next 10 years, irrespective of the person's political background, we don't care, but want to create 100 people who are worth $5 billion in Ghana with government support. And therefore, all these things I've mentioned, those identified individuals, we are pumping government money because anyway, government pays the money that we used to import. So if we are going to give the money to 5 people in oil palm, 5 people in coconut oil, 5 people in poultry, 5 people in rice production, do you know the amount of money those people will make? And do you know the amount of people they will employ within the time? But we are sending all this money to economists outside Ghana because our interest is to import them, go and feed this. And this I'm saying, me when I go to the market, I have my money. I decide what to buy. But the one that government money is being used to buy, that is what we can use to empower people. So if we talk about the Dangote and the rest in Nigeria, Nigeria took a deliberate policy to say citizens must own the country. And they decided to make certain policy. Look, what direct policy have we done to make sure that even the resources God has endowed it with, from bauxite, gold, diamond, lithium, and all these things that God, even if we had made a policy that Ghanaians should own 30% of this asset, do you know how many millionaires would have created in the past 20, 30, or 50 years? It's a matter of thinkers sitting down and say, this country can be transformed within a short time. Let's just take the bitter pill. let's forget about the interests of few individuals who will be importing and making money, but we want to make sure that that money stays in this country and empower Ghanaians to become rich. So anybody sitting there telling you that Ghana's unemployment problem is not solvable, it's not telling you the truth.
Right.
It is easy and it can be done. All that it needs is a person who can say, it doesn't matter those who finance me to power. If you are going to get money, show me a plan that I can use government money to empower you to become great. As IB has said, all these youth employment projects that show 5 people that have been able to go through and establish a big business in this country. It shouldn't go beyond the borders of Ghana. Just show 5. So all the money we have invested in this project, do you know that if we had at that time started and said 10 years ago and said, instead of this youth program, we want somebody to have 100,000 palm farm and employ 5,000 people there. Somebody should have 100,000 acres coconut farm, employ 5,000 people. Those will be sustainable employment. And those people would have been billionaires now in Ghana and be exported to other countries and bringing money. So you see, it's not that this cannot be done. That's why I'm saying that if it's possible, this program can be dedicated to this. It can be. Do you know what how much we can make from the voter league if we would just decide that we get some 3 or 4 people who want to go into large-scale fish farming, and we allocate portions of the voter league. For the, we are here, Chinese are running tilapia and voter league and making money.
Yes,
the Ghanaians are
all the big players are foreigners.
Do you understand?
All the big players.
So why that we're
Across all
not?
the industries.
So do you understand? From the time of Gladys Asma, as fisheries minister, was how many Ghanaians have we been able to build in the fish farming sector? The voter league is ours. If you read Nkrumah's policy of the voter league, it was all electricity. One of the key aspects was that the voter league will become a major source of protein for Ghanaians. Based on the fish we can get from there, we can create billionaires who are fish farmers in Ghana, who will farm all the fish along the voter league and bring all the money to this country and even export and bring in foreign exchange. So anybody sitting down there and tell you that Ghana's transformation is going to be, it's because we have prioritized 4 years of voting, who will win, who will get some appointment, over the real issue of, instead of voting and the rest, who is creating the business owners that are employing Ghanaians. Government can't employ you. That is the bottom line. So it's only a private sector person that can employ you. We talk about private sector all the time, from President of Growth. Then we all the slogans. But the question is, where are the private people in Ghana that Ghana government, through its own procurement power, because government is responsible for between 60 to 70% of all procurement in this country. So it's a strong power that if government decides to leverage on that and says, all the money I'm collecting from Ghanaians and on behalf of Ghanaians, how I am spending it, I want to use it to empower Ghanaians to become those who employ Ghanaians. Would have a lot of companies around employing people. There's no, how many companies? You go to Tema now, if it's not Chinese, it is Indian. I don't have anything against them. But the question is, if they can come here and make money, it means that Ghanaians here can make the same money. So it's about deliberate government policy. Okay? That's why I have said that no matter how the challenges, if we want to make any progress, it's not about announcing 24-hour economy. 1D1F is the gateway to a 24-hour economy. So it's about reviewing what the challenges are and what can be done better. Because it is the factories that you must create, there must be demand for it before they can do 24-hour economy. So if we abandon 1D1F and now we are talking about 24-hour economy and we don't even have a clear idea of what it is, and you think that this country's unemployment will not increase, you are joking. And you know what? It's going to get worse in the next 5 to 10 years. The reason be that Ghana's economy is largely informal. And the person who is selling small thing on the table here, on here, in this market, that's how our parents took care of us, okay? Today, in concentrated areas with large populations, where people buy a lot, is why we are allowing China more. So what happens is that your mother or your sister who is relying on that tabletop business is soon going to go out of business. Why? Because when your mother goes to buy it from some place and bring it there,
now the place has come to you.
Now the place is next to your door. So the tabletop one you are not going to buy. Now you are walking straight to the mall to buy. And now I've said that if I have my chance, no China mall will be allowed in this country. We can create a distribution zone for them We are unable to produce. But create a distribution zone. Let them put their products there. They shouldn't be in the open market competing with anybody. And let the Ghanaian trader go there.
They should only do wholesale and not retail.
Exactly. Let the Ghanaian trader go and buy it and bring it to come and sell and also earn a living. But what we are doing now is getting a lot of people out of business. So when I hear TV people are not buying. People are not buying. I say, why people are not buying is that those who are your customers, they are not going to China more to go and buy it at a cheaper price. Because it's not closer to them. So you see, you must look at the nature of your economy. If China goes to open a big supermarket in America, nobody cares. Because for them, the production centers are there and they distribute their products through supermarkets. So if you come and build a supermarket, they are not interested. They know that you can't compete with them. Or if you compete, to be fair. But in an economy where 90% are small and micro businesses, right. And we know that largely they are all traders and buy and sell small. And then you are allowing powerful people with big money now opening big shops close to those people, and they are selling cheaper than that trader. Soon, that trader's business is going to go just out of business. Right. And then the poverty situation, the unemployment situation will worsen. The truth of the matter is that we even see private people organize this kind of schemes to identify people with good ideas. How much interest has government taken in those projects? How much? We have had a ministry and Akufo-Addo business development. I thought it was a fantastic idea that find some money and support innovators with new ideas. Have you done any review as to how many of those who got those monies, where they are now, what is the state of their business? It's impossible. Look, when you look at the Asian Tigers, one of the key policies is government direct interventions to private businesses. Government was directly involved in setting up companies and creating the jobs. And then when the company is doing well to a certain point, they offload the shares to private people and they send the money elsewhere. The government invests heavily in human resource because human beings who must do the job. Right. What's the state of education in Ghana today? They invest heavily in the kind of infrastructure that will make the economy grow. That's what I'm saying. This topic is so broad that if we want to take it one by one, maybe we're not close to it. But let's get in there and say that I believe that Ghana's unemployment problem can easily be resolved. It's just the commitment of leadership. I have always asked, who are the thinkers for the nation of Ghana? Who are the thinkers? I am of the view that for every sector, there should be a standing group of people with expertise and knowledge, both people on the job and academia, put together who should be drafting policy for every sector. Right. They don't care about NDC NPP. They are telling you that from the academic point of view, we have collaborated with industry, probably in the manufacturing sector. We think that this is the way that the Ghana as a country must go if we want to make it. Okay. There's none. Politicians just go and sit somewhere and come with phantom ideas in their manifestos and they come and trumpet it, they will go and vote for them. Right. Now if you ask them to implement it, just like 1, 2, 3, it becomes a problem. Right, and you have to move away from that.
Okay. When we started the conversation, when Ibrahim was making this point, a friend of mine, Elvis Alawadolamte, sent a message and he says, think of unemployment as a pipeline problem. Schools release millions of capable young people each year. The economy must build wider pipes where their energies flow into farms, factories, labs, construction sites, and digital industries. Countries which solved unemployment did not rely on speeches, they built production systems. An interesting thought experiment sits here. If Ghana established 10 large agro-industrial zones and 5 major manufacturing clusters across regions, oh Charlie, now somebody's calling me to spot a thing, each employing 20,000 people directly and indirectly, the country would generate roughly 300,000 jobs. Economic ecosystems behave like living organisms. Feed them production, infrastructure, and skills, and they grow on their own. Ghana should let the young ones know that farming is the next big thing that can take Ghana out of the trouble. So when you started speaking, he says, no wonder he's also an Elvis. He's thinking in the same direction.
The point is assuming that we have the North growing all the cotton that they used to do, and government made sure the cotton industry is thriving. And we move the textile factories that are in Tema, who have collapsed to that place. Do you know the cost of transporting the cotton from the North to Juapon to go and create great baths before bringing it to Tema for them to produce? So even the siting of the factories were wrong. Right. And so if you look at the cotton, like look at the number of farmers that will go into cotton, and look at the people who will now go and buy and now send to the companies. Look at the number of people that they will employ. And then by that you can create what we call an industrial zone up north that is only interested in textiles. Ethiopia has an industrial zone for textiles that employ 20,000 people. One industrial zone just for textiles. that employs 20,000 people.
Right.
We have the climate to grow cotton. We can have an industrial zone up north, one that can create maybe 50,000 people.
Right.
So the employment opportunities are there.
Yeah, Stephen, let me give you a final bite. I mean, if we go with Elvis, we'll not end the show today.
I know, I realize.
Like he said,
He has a lot of ideas.
Very cogent ones,
Very
too.
cogent ones, I agree. And to agree with him, I think that we have politicized everything in this country. There's over-politicization.
Yeah.
So we are not able to focus on the important things that could propel our country towards growth. You know, one of the things I have advocated, that we should not politicize employment and unemployment, because it has no political color. Whether you are NDC or NPP, you know, you can be unemployed. You can also be employed at any point in time. So let's not, you know, color it. The same way, let's not do politics with interest rate. Exchange rate. Let's not do politics with, you know, petrol prices and all that. These are things that when you politicize, it will come back to bite you. And so I agree with him that the current government was in opposition, made a lot of promises, assured the youth that, oh, we are your only hope to employment. And really, like he said, somebody is finished school 15 years ago, he's home, unemployed. If you come and give him that assurance, he's more likely to vote for you only on that promise.
Yeah.
You know, and then you come into power 1 year plus on, and he's not seeing any hope in sight. Certainly, there will be anger, and it's not surprising that the Minister for Interior has come under such intense fire. But I also agree with him on the need for us to look at industrialization as a major driver of our economy, especially when the NPP came with one district, one factory. The only problem I had with one district, one factory was that it was a brilliant idea, but was not well thought through, because you cannot industrialize without the raw material input base. We only said that, oh, this district is a sugarcane growing district, so let us cite a sugar factory there. Was a sugarcane the only input?
Or is somebody related growing it in large scale?
Is that the only input? Are there other inputs? How are we looking at first growing the input side of the industries that we want to create?
Right.
That is something that government must focus on. You go to other countries and they are the raw material manufacturer for other industries in other countries. So you need textiles. Somebody is there producing the cotton and, you know, doing it in another country, and another country is buying that to add value. You know, so we sit here and all these brilliant ideas have come up, but in terms of the details, the nitty-gritties to achieve these brilliant ideas, I'm not sure we spend so much time on it. And that's why I agree with him where he says that we should bring industry and academia together. Let them bring the experience of industry, the experience of research to one, you know, platform, and then see how we could together create that, you know, industrial base that we want for us as a country. Otherwise, it will be all talk, you know, and each government will come, promise whatever they want, and then leave without any visible, you know, result. So I believe that from where we are now, let's put the brakes, both NDC, NPP, and every other stakeholder. Let's ask ourselves, where do we want to go in the next 10 years on unemployment? How do we want to solve this problem? You know, and let's begin to put him. I hear the president has set up an economic advisory team. Maybe they should be charged with that responsibility to think for this country on how we can industrialize. And one thing I want to say, you talked about the businessmen in Ghana and whether indeed government has deliberately, you know, supported them to be able to, you know, create the needed jobs. And I say that it's also an issue of our education and our culture, and how over the years entrepreneurs have also been unfairly, you know, treated in this country. I have an experience where you employ people to work for you and they end up stealing from you, you know, and when you even go through the process of getting justice, half the time it's so cumbersome and tedious. So nobody wants to do that. So if you want to solve this problem, we must look at a holistic approach because you have very big millionaires in this country. Why are they not going into production? All they are doing is building high-rise buildings and renting it.
Because the cost of production is
because that is a safe investment.
Yeah.
You go and see your asset visibly there, somebody rents it to take money. Even when people are not renting, they are still building. Because in their mind, if they don't even rent, one day they can sell it for the value that, you know, they have put in there. So the point is that why are the big names we know not industrializing? and rather are going into the service sector. It is because the cost of running, an industry or running a business where you are into production in this country is difficult. It's very high as well, because aside the financial investment, there's also the human capital. Do we have them? Or do we have to bring in some other expertise from elsewhere? That cost, who is dealing with it? So if he looks at all those input costs and realize that, I'm better off building an Airbnb, renting it and getting my money at the end of the month, less stressful. You don't need to manage tens of thousands of people. But there are a few industries here, and really it's the Indians who do it better when it comes to setting up such, large production, companies. And we've seen that with Melcom, we've seen that with a few other companies. And the question is that if we've known this all these years as a country, deliberately, you find a way of partnering with them, where you bring the Indian and the Ghanaian together and then have a deliberate program to help them, develop the industry so that over time, if they are even leaving, you can have the Ghanaians with the capacity to continue running this business.
Okay. Ibrahim, I'll give you the final word on this one.
Yes, two quick things. First, see, nobody should be oblivious of the fact that at this table, we understand the conversation about recruitment. We understand the frustration. I've heard the Adentan MP say that just a few months ago, make it 1 year, not a few months, in Parliament, MPs were made to submit lists. And those individuals who had their names on the list were recruited. And just a year down the line, a member of Parliament submits names of his constituents that he believes that the authority he wields as an MP should be enough to get them recruited, and they are bounced. The people on the list are frustrated, but the MP is much more frustrated because of what use is the authority that he wields.
Yeah.
If after giving the people his word that give me a list, let me submit, they'll be recruited, and these people are not recruited. Some might not even be able to return to their constituencies.
Yeah. Oh, in fact, the Yendi MP made that point. He says he has to go to the constituency this weekend. He doesn't know how he would go.
Because party was promised.
The calls.
The party was
He said they should have gone the MPP way.
But they were criticizing it.
You see the politicians.
Change is a difficult thing. See, change is always a difficult thing, right? And that's how come you have to always manage change. So sometimes change must be gradual.
Yeah.
Sometimes a bit of this and a bit of that. I think what the party failed to do was to carry its members along with the change that it intended implemented. See, let your members know that. First of all, be qualified. In fact, be overly qualified. Right? Once you are overly qualified, you stand a better chance than any other person who applies. You get the point. But let them know that there's no automaticity in that regard. It's not the fact that you hold a car that has an umbrella, right? And tell them that there's a new sheriff in town.
Would the politicians ever admit this?
You see? But that was the conversation that the Interior Minister...
How do you get a vote by telling people that it's not a guarantee?
That's the point. So the Interior Minister, through what the President said, at every point in time was making the point that, see, it was going to be based on merit. If you apply and you qualify, you will be recruited. He said that during his vetting. Even the president related to this publicly, right? Now, if there ought to be a protocol list, right? Like I said, if in the past about 30% of protocol, okay, make it 10% this time around. You move to 5% and you eliminate. That's the gradual change that I was talking about. Right? But this is like sudden. It's like all of a sudden the NDC people went to bed, they woke up and, hey, where are we now?
Disqualified.
We are unable to. You see, so you can understand. No, I'm sorry. That's how come the minister had to apologize. And in fact, the minister has apologized, right? And indicated that. In fact, in opposition, the NDC talked about over 20,000 police slots for the implementation of the 24-hour economy. Well, I engaged the head of the authority, Gusitano, immediately after the president presented the State of the Nation address. And he's upbeat. Subsequently, he told me about deals that he was going to sign. Subsequently, he assigned those financing agreements and what have you, that the time for takeoff is this year. If that happens and there is extra need for recruitment as far as the police is concerned, why not? These people ought to be attended to. But generally, the unemployment problem has got to do with attitude much more. And I'll give you a practical example. Many people in the construction sector are using the Togolese artisans.
Oh, yes.
And the French artisans in general.
Mm-hmm. Even in
much
fashion.
More truthful.
Yeah, they're using the
They will not
Nigerians.
steal your
But their
cement.
skills are sharper than us.
Yes.
They won't steal your cement. They won't give you any cutthroat estimates and prices, right? So the tilers are from Togo, the masons are from Togo, the carpenters are now from Togo. I used to think that the number 9s have a lid on the carpentry work, your people.
We've lost it.
But I was surprised, right? So, yes, when anybody establishes a factory and wants managers, a Ghanaian, they go to India. They tell the Indians are honest. And indeed they are. So what happened to our honesty as a people? So because of our dishonesty, we are.
That they are honest.
No, they tell you. No, in fact, I've heard a businessman tell me this.
I can tell you why they appear honest.
That okay, they might appear honest, but they've been able to
On the face of it.
They've been able to convince that owner of the company that, and he had practical example of Ghanaians stealing things.
No, that's true.
And cutting corners.
That's true. Yeah.
Right? And there's
And making
evidence,
deals in your business.
Yes.
and there's
They
evidence
even make
that
more money than
when he
you.
brought the Indian, those things were curtailed. So to that person, you cannot convince him otherwise.
I agree.
Right?
I agree.
So let's equally go back for our honesty. It should not just be about we being hospitable. Now you can't go to market with that anymore.
No.
You should add more to those values. Right? And one day, we might get there. For now, it's not just about agriculture. We should look towards the ICT, the ICT space. If you talk about ecological zones, yes, I agree with you. I say that you cannot just say that they grow sugarcane here, so let me establish a sugarcane factory there. But that's equally a very important consideration.
No, it is.
So with the one district, one factory, because we had promised that every district will get a factory, the political expectation was that it can pay off or it cannot.
Was not feasible. You understand it?
You see,
You can say every region you want to have 2 or 3 in
ecological
Yes,
zone,
but not
that's
every
right.
district.
Yes. That's it. And Elvis,
You can even zone the country.
I'm not sure that 24-hour economics implementation will say no to establishment of factories. So if you say that the one factory has been collapsed, and as a result, we might not have.
No, that's what he said.
They
That's what
said
he
something
said.
in parliament that it's collapsed and that they have their own policy. I'm not the one saying that.
They just changed the name.
A name.
That's what they said.
B5 plus. No, I'm coming. B5 plus.
I didn't
B5
say-
plus
I
are
didn't
just.
say this.
Yeah,
An appointee stand in
but we
parliament
know
saying
that it's
it's
just a
collapse.
name.
It's not their
We know
policy.
that it's a name.
You
B5
understand?
plus has just expanded.
You understand?
Was the president not there?
I'm not
to
the one who said
commission
it. A government appointee said it.
So it's the government's communication.
Yes. So look.
But when it's
I
the
think
conversation,
the rip-off of collecting money from everybody that applies must stop.
okay.
Yes.
Fairness, go to the process. Those who actually make it, let them pay their recruitment fee. Even if you want to collect some money for the processing fee. I think this idea of just
Yes.
anyway,
No, 105,000 qualified.
no,
By 100,000 we have to
500,000 apply. They will take 5,000. 500,000
How much are
will
they
not
charging
take it.
them?
Okay.
200 cities.
260.
Okay.
So times
Times 500,000.
100, like
You
100
know how much-
million.
By way of information, that's less than how much they paid the last time there was a recruitment.
I know, but
there's a
the
reduction.
argument was
But I
that
think
you
they should
will pay.
reduce it further.
But my point is that if the person goes through, you didn't want to charge him even 1,000.
That would be
okay.
fair.
Because
Yeah.
the person knows that
Where he has
he's going for
gotten to,
training,
yeah,
he's been taken.
it's been
But if I'm applying and I'm not being taken, I'm being paid, we have always been saying that the embassies have been cheating us. If we apply for business, they don't
cheating
return
our
our money.
people.
We are doing our- So what moral right do you have to complain with what the embassy is doing?
Right.
That's it. Look, I want to tell the president, I've said it before and I'll say, if we think we can't do the manufacturing, let's take tourism, okay? We started talking about Marine Drive. What has happened to it? But look at the fact that Ghana has a seashore from Axim
All the
to
way
Keta.
to Keta.
And look at the Volta Lake and see where it has gotten to. If we say we just want to get investors, okay, 100 meters or yards from the river, nobody should build there. And we just dedicate it for hotel and tourism facilities just from Azim to Keta and along the Volta Lake, we may not need to do any manufacturing. This economy will be very well. So if we feel that we can't do manufacturing, I think that the biggest opportunity is the seashore and the river banks that we have. If we go to the Caribbean, what the countries have, it's only their beaches that they are using to make the money. So if we think that manufacturing is so difficult, we can't. Let's package a proper thing and go and get investors and say, from Marine Drive to Adan, you take it. Build any facility for tourism. From Adan to this place, you to take it. Get about 10 global investors who are into this hotel chains and give them the place. Let them develop. If Ghanaians will be employed there to work, the unemployment situation will go down. So if we can't do manufacturing,
let's do
our next biggest opportunity is tourism.
That means
that's why I told you that Ghana has no reason to complain about unemployment. If the Volta River is in any other Western country, that alone would have been the leading economic contributor. And then you have this beach from Axim to Keita. If any country, in any serious place, had that kind of beaches to take care of the country, we have so much that we should be having so many people coming to look for jobs here. If we sit down and plan.
Yes, we have people rather willing to leave.
I'm telling you.
Okay, so let me. Audu is watching us, and he misses being in the sea. So he says this: an economy that's doing very well could not recruit people into the security services in 2025. And you think the numbers will not increase in 2026? As for 24-hour economy, it died at birth. Trust me.
But the economy can't even pay the few teachers and nurses that are living there because it has implications.
Oh goodness!
And if the wage bill starts rising right now, okay. Every economic indicator you see will start shaking. So the people are blaming Muntaka. What is Muntaka's fault? Muntaka, before they will decide that they will recruit, apart from the need, they also have to consider the ability of government to pay.
Yeah, of course.
So if Muntaka had a way, you can say he's recruiting 50,000 security people. But they have to see Atu forcing as Atu. How many people can you pay if we recruit?
5,000.
And Atu have to say, looking at the revenue and everything, if you go beyond this number, we can't pay. Because teachers which have been recruited before they came to power, up to now they said they have not been paid. The few nurses, they said they have not been paid. Akana has told that there are about 73,000 health workers who have completed school looking for a job and they don't have a job. And that if we continue training, by the 2028, the number will go to 180,000. And there's no way to employ them. So now he has slapped huge quotas on nursing training institutions that they shouldn't admit. I'm told that a lot of nursing training schools now, classrooms are empty. Because of the quota the government has imposed on them. But what happened? Quota was politicized. 2015 was when the NDC government established quota. Because that's when we had run to IME, we were broke. The NPP people took matter with it. NPP came and they continued it. NDC was holding press conference upon press conference. Even President Mahama promised that when he comes, he will abolish quota into admission of nursing training. NDC has come. Now they say we can't pay. Now they have increased the quota on schools that employ limited people. So now classrooms are empty in nursing training. This is how we are politicizing issues and we come and we do the same thing. Why can't the politicians just sit up and say, look, the truth of the matter is that this is the state of the country. There's little we can do about it now. Everybody come on board. Let's all push an agenda that will make the country better in 20.
But is that not what the president does with Sona?
It's just done.
Elvis, is the quota, and finally on this, and
Yes.
I think
We need to move to the next topic.
is the quota because of the allowances being paid to the trainees, or the quota is because of the fact that they cannot be absorbed? Because government is equally open channel where these nurses
They cannot be absorbed. There are two issues. The allowances and absorbing.
Allowances more important.
No.
But as for the absorbing, the private sector is even absorbing.
2015, the government cancelled allowances and said because they are cancelling allowances. Okay.
No.
I follow that issue very well. They said they are cancelling allowances to open more admission opportunity to nurses. They cut the allowances and also impose quota. Because they can't pay, and then there were backlog. There's a backlog of people.
Allowances were never cancelled.
No,
they were cancelled on paper.
they were
when we don't hear when the allowances were paid on tabletop. Then you didn't follow well. I'm telling you, personally. So allowances being paid on tabletop before the 2016 election.
Allowances were cancelled. Students never got allowances.
Okay.
I'm telling you.
Well,
so
gentlemen, Stephen, let me come to you. Let me come to you because Auditor General's report, we are told that some huge sums, massive rods. And yesterday when I had the politicians here, they said, listen, Joshua, always we are focusing on the politicians. But clearly this points to the acts and undoings of civil servants, which you have not paid attention to. I mean, I'm sure you've also heard about the conversations surrounding the Auditor General's report and the government saying, listen, we are not going to leave any stone unturned. Prosecutions would definitely go through.
You know, I mean, this subject is a subject that I am very familiar with because I was with SIGA, I'm sure, State Interest and Governance Authority.
Yeah.
And we had oversight on all the state agencies and were submitting their financial reports to us almost every year. We're signing performance contracts to them almost every year and monitoring these indicators and ensuring that they adhere to the tenets of the contract. And at the end of the contract period, we also do evaluation. Same for the Auditor General. The Auditor General's role is to ensure that they audit these entities. And for each entity, there's an audit service staff in there as an internal auditor, whose job is to ensure that the operations of the entity is in compliance with all the audit, requirements, also in compliance with the Public Financial Management Act, which provides for prudence, accountability, and value for money and all those things. So the thinking is that if for nothing at all, the PFM has been in existence for a long time. What has been the evaluation of the Act since its implementation? What are the challenges with the Act? What are the needed, amendments that needs to be done? The problem we have as a country is that we write very beautiful laws, very good, acts, but we are bad at implementation. Very bad at it. We are so bad to the point that we don't even know we are bad. That's how the situation is. Because year on year, this issue comes up, and Parliamentary Public Accounts Committee would engage, and you see CEOs and ministers being queried on decisions or expenditures they made, and there's this, you have to refund, they will surcharge, but nobody comes back to report to us. The final, outcome of some of these directives that were given by the Public Accounts Committee. The real issue, like you rightly mentioned, and I agree with those who were here yesterday who talked about the systemic failures across every aspect of our administrative setup. You have a civil service that has been around for ages, and you only appoint a politician who comes in to serve the interests of the president because the president appoints him there to direct them and lead them towards achieving the president's vision. But in terms of the systems that runs the ministry, it is the chief director who is supposed to oversight that. So if there are weaknesses in there and is leading to some of these infractions and violations of the PFM Act and other, acts, then the question is the administrative leg of our government machinery doing a good job? If they are not, do they have inherent systems to purge themselves of some of these inefficiencies? If they don't have, then clearly we don't even have a government in the first place. Because elsewhere you have the public service so efficient that the politician, when he comes in, can only do very little to change how things are done, except to champion government programs and policies. But here you have chief directors, public servants who have been there for so long. Some of them they are on one desk for close to, how many years? They don't even go on leave because they are indispensable. They have to be there to ensure that certain things are done. And nobody seems to be worried about that. No, in private sector, you can't do that. We need to now look at how private sector has been able to evolve an efficient management system where these infractions are minimal. But again, there are no deterrents. People do not get punished enough for some of these things they do. So at the end of the day, these acts keep recurring. Because, I've had course, when I was at SIGA, where you go to public accounts and then the action that is being reviewed or that is being, discussed at the Public Accounts Committee.
A year old.
It's 5 years
And
old. It's 4 years old.
Already.
And by the time you even go back to find out which officer committed that particular act,
It's no longer there.
Warita, he's dead or he's been transferred. So we are also late when it comes to producing some of these reports and following up to ensure that there's some accountability. And that's why I was excited at the idea of SIGA, because SIGA's role was, one, to ensure that government interests in all these state agencies are protected. First, by making sure that you publish your accounts on time. By 30th of April, every entity must publish your account. Once the account is published, then we go into the Public Accounts Committee engagements. Then, if there are issues, it is for SIGA and the other state agencies like the Attorney General who is supposed to follow through and ensure that there is some, punitive measures implemented and people who are surcharged are made to pay. But again, like he was trying to point out, if you see the report and some of the infractions that were cited, most of them are not monies lost.
Yeah.
Most of them also relates to intentions or some administrative deviations, especially where there's an approval to buy a car for 10,000 and then they go and buy something different. The Auditor General will cite that and quote that money as money that has been misapplied. So if you put all that together, you see a huge figure.
Yeah.
But in real sense, a certain car was bought, except that probably it was not what was approved to be bought. The question is, whose job is it to ensure that at the time of buying, whoever is going to buy is complying with the approval? That's the internal auditor's job. So in the entities, if we don't allow the internal auditors to work, which in most cases do not allow them to work, and the Auditor General also does not enforce the establishment of audit committees. Every entity must have an internal audit committee who will review all the audit infractions or issues that have come out at the end of the year and propose recommendations for implementation.
Right.
And it is for the CEO and management and the board to ensure that all these issues that have been proposed or recommended are implemented going forward, to ensure that we don't have, but year on year, we keep having increased infractions. It means that these boards are not doing, they are not doing their supervisory role very well. And it has become like, it's normal. Every year we go to Parliament, we do this, nothing happens. The next year it has become perennial until somebody decides to crack the whip. And I'm happy this time around. Okay, let's take it to the Attorney General. I am yet to understand, maybe I have to talk to a few friends who are lawyers to understand how the Attorney General will go ahead with prosecution. Because first, he must go to Public Accounts Committee. Public Accounts Committee will identify all these and give instructions, and some of the instructions go back to the entity for them to correct. Some of them, the Auditor General or the Auditor General will have to appoint an auditor to go and correct some of these things and follow through. At what point does the Attorney General goes to court? So we need to understand whether indeed the directive really can carry, knowing all the legal restrictions that are in place.
Ibrahim, you are in Parliament.
Yes, and I've asked that same question that he asked of James Kulucha-Aveji, who was the chairman for the Public Accounts Committee until his exit from Parliament. And so the answer is a direct one. After the public sittings or the public hearings for the Public Accounts Committee, it prepares its reports, which comes with recommendations to the plenary. So the entire Parliament will have to debate. And once the report is adopted, inherent in the report will be recommendations for prosecution. Then they are forwarded to the Attorney General. The challenge had always been that once they are forwarded to the Attorney General, no action has ever been taken. So in my engagement with him, he actually forwarded Godfred Dame. He said that people are saying that nothing comes out of the public hearings of the Public Accounts Committee. Well, they should go and ask the Attorney General Godfred Dame. So if this government says there will be prosecutions, this is the same process that will be followed.